My phone buzzed 3 times before I looked at it, but it was already too late. Once the words "emergency broadcast, shelter in place, unusual behavior reported" flashed across the screen, everything changed. I used to laugh at those alerts. Flash floods, amber alerts, always far away from my small apartment above the laundromat in Northwest Indiana. But this one felt different. At first, nothing happened. I kept eating my cold leftover pizza, watching a YouTube video about fixing a broken dryer. The world felt the same. But the next time I went to the window, I noticed Mrs. Garcia across the street was just standing on her porch. She's usually yelling at her grandkids to get off the grass. Now she was just staring at nothing, still as a statue, mouth open. It was weird, but I tried to laugh it off. Maybe she was drunk, maybe everyone was just tired. I wanted to believe that. My name's Jesse, by the way. I'm 29, single, and broke. I work at a hardware store. I hate my landlord. My last relationship ended in February because she said I was emotionally closed off and probably destined to become a hermit. Joke's on her, I guess. I spend my nights scrolling Reddit, listening to podcasts, microwaving frozen dinners, and texting my best friend Marissa. She's the only person who checks on me since my brother moved out to California. The weirdness started small. It was the eyes. People didn't look away anymore. At the store, an old man just stood by the batteries staring at me way too long. My neighbor across the hall, Tara, opened her door and just stood there. Didn't say hi, just watched me. The delivery guy handed me my food and his hand lingered, his eyes never leaving mine. At first I thought maybe I had something on my face, but it kept happening. At the gas station, a little girl just stood by the pump, staring up at me, eyes wide and dead. I didn't even know if she belonged to anyone. Back at the apartment, I texted Marissa. "Anyone acting off today?" She wrote back, "Yes. It's like the Stepford Wives in my building." I tried to joke, "Maybe we're in a simulation." She didn't reply. The news was all over the place, some kind of chemical leak maybe, but nobody really knew. They just said, "Shelter in place," but didn't say why. The air tasted weird, like metal. My leftover pizza suddenly tasted off. I spit it out, but my mouth still burned like I'd licked a battery. I even checked my tongue in the mirror. That night, I couldn't sleep. There was this banging sound, slow, methodical, like someone knocking on the pipes or hitting a wall with a broom handle. But it didn't sound like it was coming from one apartment. It echoed, like the whole building was alive. I texted Marissa again, but she didn't answer. I called my mom in Florida. She didn't pick up either. I checked the news again. Live feeds kept cutting out. A news anchor looked straight into the camera and didn't blink for a full minute. Then the screen just went black. Twitter was worse. Every few posts, there'd be someone just posting the same word over and over. Look. 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 By morning, I'd moved the dresser in front of my door. I'm not brave, but I'm not stupid either. If something was happening, I wasn't letting anyone in. I watched from my window as Mr. O'Donnell from down the hall tried his front door. It was locked from the outside. He started pounding on it, then just stopped, like he forgot what he was doing. He turned and looked right at my window, didn't wave, didn't smile, just stared, like he was waiting for me to do something. Now it's 9 a.m. and I'm sitting on the floor with a baseball bat in my lap just in case. There's this tension, like everyone's holding their breath. But nobody's talking. The silence is heavy, except for the occasional banging that always starts up around midnight. I keep telling myself it's fine. But when people stop acting like people, you realize it's not the monsters you have to worry about. It's the smoke before the flame. And whatever's coming, it started with us. Marissa finally answered at noon, but her message made my skin crawl. She just sent a photo. It was her living room. Someone was standing in the corner facing the wall in broad daylight. I called her right away, but it went straight to voicemail. My hands were shaking so bad I almost dropped my phone. Outside, more people were moving, but not right. There was a guy across the street carrying a trash bag, dragging it slowly like it weighed 1,000 pounds. He dropped it in the middle of the road, then just stood there, head tilted. Cars weren't driving anymore. No honking, no sirens, just people moving, stopping, staring. I called my boss, then the cops, then the local urgent care. Nobody picked up. I heard glass break somewhere upstairs and I pressed myself to the floor. My heart was pounding so loud it felt like someone could hear it. Then silence. Then that heavy banging again. Closer now. My phone buzzed. Another alert. Emergency broadcast. Avoid all contact. Stay indoors. Seek immediate shelter. This time, it wasn't even a human voice, just a robot, repeating the same sentence again and again. My stomach twisted. I was out of food except for half a loaf of bread and some peanut butter. Every bite tasted like pennies. The air smelled sharp. I taped towels under the door and stuffed my jacket in the bathroom vent. I checked the window. Mrs. Garcia was gone, but there was a streak of something dark down her front steps. I locked the window, pulled the blinds, and sat in the dark, holding the bat. Night came early. There were voices in the hallway, but nobody sounded right. They'd call out random names, sometimes my own. Once, someone pounded on my door, calling my name in my brother's voice. I almost opened it, but I remembered my brother was in California, and I hadn't spoken to him in months. I pushed the dresser harder against the door, shaking. At 3 a.m., something slammed into the wall so hard that the pictures fell down. I heard a woman screaming, then it cut off just like that. I stared at the door until the sun started rising. Every hour felt like a year. When morning finally came, my phone was at 7%. Marissa hadn't answered. The news was just the same broadcast, now with video, National Guard trucks, lines of people shuffling forward, everyone with those dead eyes. Then static. I tried to call out the window, but my voice sounded wrong, cracked, desperate. No one even looked up. I was locked inside, hungry, scared, and alone. But outside was worse. Out there, people didn't look like people anymore. Out there, you couldn't tell who was sick and who was just pretending. In here, at least, I still had myself. For now. Hunger finally won. I waited until night, when the banging and voices got quieter, and pulled myself together enough to move the dresser. The hallway was silent. I took my bat and a backpack, heart racing, and stepped out. The whole building smelled like blood and metal. On the 3rd floor, the stairwell window was shattered, glass everywhere. Downstairs, the front lobby was empty, except for footprints in something dark smeared all the way to the door. I didn't want to leave, but I had no choice. I ran across the street to the corner store. The door was off its hinges. The shelves were empty, but there was a box of protein bars on the floor. I grabbed as many as I could and started back, but a noise froze me. Something was crawling out from behind the counter. Its eyes locked on mine, black and wide and bottomless. Its mouth opened, but no words came, just a clicking sound, deep in its throat. It dragged itself toward me, arms bent wrong. I almost dropped the bat, but I swung with everything I had. It was heavier than it looked. There was a sick crunch. The thing went still. I stumbled out, hands shaking. The sky was orange, glowing from a fire somewhere down the block. The screaming started up again. Worse now, not just people. Something else. I kept running. By the time I got back to my apartment, my shirt was torn and blood spattered my shoes. I locked myself in and sat on the kitchen floor, eating a protein bar, crying. That wasn't survival. That was murder. The next day, smoke filled the hallways. The building next door was burning. People were banging on doors, breaking windows. I saw someone throw a chair through a second-story window and jump out, landing with a thud that didn't sound right. I grabbed my things, took one last look at the apartment I'd hated, and ran. I ran for hours, hiding behind dumpsters, under cars, anywhere the eyes couldn't find me. There were military trucks parked at the old high school, soldiers shouting, rounding people up. A huge speaker blasted out, "Safe zone inside. Follow orders." But something was off. Anyone who stepped into the fenced area wasn't coming back out. The soldiers weren't checking for bites. They just herded people in, and after a while, the screaming stopped. The next truck arrived and the process repeated. I kept moving. I found Marissa, or what was left of her. Her door was wide open. The living room looked exactly like the photo she sent. The person in the corner was gone, but Marissa was lying on the kitchen floor, her eyes wide open, her mouth full of blood. There were words scratched into the wall next to her head. "Look." I tried to find somewhere safe, but every place was worse than the last. Some survivors tried to rob me, then changed their minds when they saw my bat. I saw people chained up in basements, others begging to be let in, kids crying. Every face was a threat. The worst part was, after a while, I started to get used to it. I stole food, I lied, I hurt people who got in my way. I became someone I hated. Eventually, I got caught by a group holed up in a furniture warehouse. They tied me up, stripped me of my backpack and bat, and argued over what to do with me. One of them, big guy, face covered in scars, smiled the whole time. He kept saying, "It's just the rules now." They tortured me for hours, laughing, until I managed to slip a hand free and grab a piece of broken glass. I cut myself loose and ran while they were fighting over the food. I never looked back. I wandered for days through neighborhoods where the only sound was the moaning from behind boarded-up windows. I found a group in a church. They let me in. For a while I thought maybe this was it, a place to rest, people to trust. But it never lasts. Someone brought in an infected. The panic spread faster than the sickness. People fought, screamed, locked each other out. When the dead finally broke in, the living had already torn each other apart. Now it's just me again, walking the streets, hiding in alleys, listening for footsteps. I don't trust anyone, not even myself. I'd rather be alone than take another chance. In the end, the worst monsters weren't the dead ones. They were the people I knew, the faces I thought I could trust. That's what nobody tells you about the end of the world. It's not the zombies that break you. It's the living. If you're hearing this, if you're out there, remember this. Stay moving. Trust no one. Keep your back to the wall. And if you find a safe place, don't tell a soul. Because in the dark, the only thing worse than being alone is realizing you're not. If this story kept you on edge, hit the like button and subscribe to Dark Whispers for more terrifying true-to-life horror. Share your thoughts or your own survival stories in the comments below. And remember, in the world of Dark Whispers, nobody is ever truly safe.